Imagine you are playing a video game or running when you suddenly find yourself in the zone. You're not overthinking or distracted, and if you feel like your mind and body are perfectly in sync, then you are in the flow state. It was psychologist Mihail Csikszentmihalyi who coined the term flow state in his 1990 book Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience. He studied artists and athletes who got so absorbed in their work that they lost track of time and described it as being in the flow, where everything felt effortless and satisfying. And in the anime Blue Lock, Ego Jinpachi explains it perfectly. Now, if you have been following the series, you will know how much Ego emphasizes not just skill, but the mindset needed to become the best. And honestly, the way he breaks down the flow state is something we can all relate to in our own lives. It's that moment when you are completely locked in. Time feels like it wraps and everything else fades in the background. You are not overthinking or second guessing. You are just doing and you are operating at your own peak without even realizing it. For example, in Blue Lock Season 2 Episode 3, Isagi scores an incredible final goal. Rin and Sido were both charging it for the pass, but Isagi didn't think. He reacted. His reflexes took over and he scored before anyone could stop him. He wasn't overanalyzing or planning his next move, he was simply in the zone. At that moment, Isagi was in a flow state, even if he didn't realize it until Ego explained it later. Ego's explanation of the flow state really stuck with me. He said that it's that sweet spot between boredom and anxiety. Think about it like this. If something is too easy, you get bored. There is no challenge, therefore your brain checks out. But if it's too hard, you start feeling anxious, overwhelmed, or even paralyzed by the pressure. The flow state happens when the challenge is just right, not too easy, not too difficult. It's like Naruto's ramen, everything is balanced perfectly. Let's say you are working on something you love, like painting or even playing a sport. If the task is too simple, for example like painting a simple shape when you are already skilled, you will zone out because it's not engaging. On the flip side, if you are trying to recreate the Mona Lisa on your first try, the sheer difficulty might stress you out and you will give up. However, when the task matches your skill level, just challenging enough to push you a bit out of your comfort zone, that's when you enter flow. You are focused and you enjoy the process so much that hours feel like minutes. Ego also makes an important point that not every trance-like state is a flow state. In today's world, we are often distracted by things like social media, binge-watching shows, or endlessly scrolling through the memes. Sure, you might feel absorbed, but that's a passive state. Unlike the flow state which pushes you to grow and evolve, this kind of distraction leaves you trapped in a place. So now that we have a better understanding of what the flow state is, let's look at how we can actually achieve it on command. Sounds impossible, right? But trust me, there is a scientific method behind it called a flow cycle, and it's something which you can learn to master. It's all about understanding the different stages of this cycle and how to trigger each one. So the first stage is the struggle stage. When you are in this stage, your brain is basically saying, wait, what's going on here? It's processing a ton of information and figuring out how to approach the challenge you have set for yourself. This is why it feels so frustrating. Your brain is working overtime to download all the data it needs. During this stage, your body pumps out stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. It's your system gearing up, like revving an engine. The tension you feel, that's your brain getting serious about the task. But this frustration is good. It's your mind stretching, growing and preparing for something bigger. Now let's say you have picked up a book you have been meaning to read. Maybe it's one of those dense, life-changing self-help books. You open it and 5 minutes in your brain is like, wow, this is hard. Maybe I should just scroll on my phone instead. If this sounds familiar, then that's the struggle. At first, the words may not sink in. You keep rereading the same paragraph and you begin to wonder if this book is really worth it. But here's the thing, if you stick with it, something changes. Maybe after 10 minutes, you start to grasp the flow of the book. Maybe the author makes a point that hits you so hard that you feel like he's directly speaking to you. That's your brain stretching, adapting and learning. Struggle is not a sign of failure. It indicates that your brain is preparing for greatness. Think of it like this, when you go to the gym, those first few reps feel heavy and awkward. But that's your muscles waking up. The same thing happens with your brain. The struggle is your mental workout and flow is the reward waiting on the other side. Which brings us to the next stage, that is the release stage. This stage is all about letting go, literally stepping away from the problem and giving your brain the space it needs to breathe. Think of it like this, your brain is like a sponge that's been soaking up all the stress, pressure and information during the struggle phase. At some point it's too full to observe anymore. So what do? You squeeze it out, not by pushing harder, but by easing off completely. Here's the cool part, even when you are not actively working on the task, your brain is still processing everything in the background. It's like when you are trying to remember the name of that actor from a movie and you give up, only for the name to pop up in your head out of nowhere 10 minutes later. That's the release phase in action. Your subconscious is doing the heavy lifting. Now, this doesn't mean that you sit around waiting for inspiration to strike. The release phase is about something that disrupts the struggling mindset. For me, when I feel stuck while writing my YouTube scripts, I step away from my desk and go for a walk outside. No phone, no distractions, just me and the fresh air. That 10 to 15-minute break may seem small, but it's a total game changer. By the time I get back to my seat, my mind feels lighter and the ideas start flowing again. It's important that during this phase you choose something that genuinely relaxes you or shifts your focus. Scrolling through Instagram Reels, for example, will not work because it doesn't allow your mind to rest. It only fills it with more information. Instead, think about things that make you feel free. For some, it might be taking a walk like I do. For others, it might be listening to music or even playing a casual game. The key is to enjoy the moment and give your mind the rest it needs. And then we enter the flow stage. This is the sweet spot we are all chasing. It's that incredible moment when everything just clicks. Your mind and body move as one and you are completely immersed in what you are doing. There's no second guessing, no distractions, just pure focus. And here's the best part, your brain is working at its peak, fueled by a cocktail of feel-good neurotransmitters like dopamine and endorphins. The thing about flow stage though is that it's not something you can just snap your fingers and jump into it. It's the result of the work you put in during the struggle and release phases. And continuing with my struggle to write down my YouTube scripts as I'm doing right now is the perfect example. After struggling with ideas and overthinking during the struggle phase, and then allowing my brain to relax and reset during the release phase, something amazing happens. When I come back to my seat, everything clicks. The word flows out of me effortlessly as if the ideas have been waiting for the right moment to burst onto the screen. It's not simply writing, it's like I am in the trance, just like Ego Jinpachi explained, where I get fully absorbed in the process. My fingers move on the keyboard as if they have a mind of their own, and the sentences form naturally, one after the other. It's like my brain and body are perfectly in sync. I don't have to pause to think about what comes next. The idea just flows, and before I know it, hours have passed, but it feels like only minutes. This is what the flow stage feels like. Pure, unfiltered creativity and focus. It feels so good because it's not just a mental state, it's your brain rewarding you for being completely engaged. And now let's talk about the final stage of the flow cycle, that is the recovery stage. You have done the hard work, you have hit the peak performance and you have been in that zone. And it's all been incredible. But what now? Now is the time to cool down because here's the thing, your brain and body aren't machines. Flow might feel effortless in the moment, but it's actually pulling a lot of energy from within you. And if you don't give yourself enough time to recover, you are setting up yourself for a burnout. Or worse, total mental shutdown. In the anime Blue Lock, recovery doesn't get a flashy spotlight, but it's always there, gently shaping the player's growth. Take Isagi for example. After one of his intense matches where he uses his spatial awareness and quick thinking to dominate the field, you see him sitting with the team reflecting. Those moments aren't just filler scenes, they are recovery. Isagi isn't just sitting there thinking, okay, what's next? He's replaying the game in his mind, analyzing what worked and what didn't, and what he can improve on. That's his brain recovering, processing the intensity of the match and preparing for the next struggle phase. However, recovery is not just about sitting still though. It's about giving your brain and body what they need to restore their reserves. Sleep, for example, is a massive part of recovery. It's when your body repairs itself, your brain organizes all the information you have taken in, and you wake up ready to take on the next challenge. But let's be real, recovery isn't always easy. We live in a world that glorifies hustle culture. People are constantly saying, keep grinding, don't stop, sleep when you're dead. And yes, that sounds cool in a motivational video. But in reality, if you skip recovery, you are not a hero. You are just burning yourself out. Flow without recovery is like trying to drive a car on an empty tank. You might make it a little further, but eventually you are going to stall. And here's the little secret, the better you are at recovery, the better you will be at hitting flow the next time around. It's like building a muscle. The more you rest and replenish, the better you will be able to handle the toll of stress and relax into that flow state when it matters the most. So to wrap it all up, whether you are trying to be the best at something like Isagi in Blue Lock or simply mastering your own craft, flow is where your true potential shines. And as Ego Jinpachi explains, getting into the flow state isn't just about talent. It's about harnessing your ego, pushing your limits, and sinking your mind and body in the heat of the moment. So the next time you're chasing something big, remember that flow state isn't out there. It's already in you, waiting for the right moment. Like Ego would say, it's not about luck, but about mindset. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.